Hey Swindlers, Mr. Hartsfield here. Today we're going to look at the Ruy Lopez, also known as the Spanish game. So the Ruy Lopez starts off, it's one of the open games, e4, e5, and then we're bringing out our knight to f3, knight to f6, or c6, sorry, attacking the pawn, defending the pawn. So this position should look very familiar from our Italian game video, knight to c4. But instead of going to c4 this time, we're going to bring our bishop to b5, and this is officially the Ruy Lopez opening. So yeah, we're just trying to kind of pin this knight so that if they move their d pawn here, they'll have a little bit of trouble along this diagonal. So that's kind of the theory behind it. There's a couple of different variations. Sorry, my son is very excited about chess. There are a couple of variations that we'll look at today, but the main one is the Morphy defense from Paul Morphy, who we looked at in the Opera House game. So that is a6, trying to kick back this bishop. White has some options as to where he can go, but the most common retreat is to a4. If you're going to retreat to c4, you might as well have just played the Italian game to begin with. So you can go and retreat a little bit. And the whole point of retreating to a4 is you want to keep that threat if you can, because the whole point of that move was to mess up his knight here, who's trying to defend this. So if he moves his pawn, you could gobble up, because that pawn won't be defended anymore. But a lot of times, black's just going to progress his pawns and march at you and just try to be a little bit pesky. So you're going to move your bishop again. And if black wants to, they could try to chase you down and try to get that pawn here to mess with you. But you could just move your pawn up and find a nice little hidey hole for your bishop to retreat to if that happens. But most people don't really chase that far. But that's one variation. The next variation after the a6 pawn move, the Morphy defense, is to just go ahead and take that knight there. This is called the exchange variation. So you just take it, and then black usually recaptures away from the center. We'll look at a game where I captured with the b pawn. I don't know why I like that better, but the real best move is right here, capturing with your d pawn. And sometimes I just forget. But we'll look at a game where I make a different move. And this is the exchange variation. So white gave up their white squared bishop, which is a powerful tool against the f7 square. And then in exchange for that, that's why it's called an exchange variation, black has this kind of silly looking pawn structure. Material is even, but what position do you like better? Now, if sometimes black gets greedy, or not black, white gets greedy and they want to just gobble up this pawn. They think it's a free pawn, but really it's not, because now we have this nice little skewer here, and white can try to defend, and black can just come at it again. So this is a little bit tricky, but you're gonna end up even material or worse. So just be aware of that little trick there. So don't get too greedy with the pawn gobbling. So you got to think of consequences. Another defense that black can do after we get to bishop b5 is just to ignore this altogether and bring out their knight here attacking. This is kind of the beginning to the Berlin defense, which I'm not going to go into too much detail because honestly I don't know too much about it, because I'm still learning a lot too. So I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about all these positions. It gets very complicated. But the Berlin defense is a good way to tie at higher level games. But people like me and you, we're going to make lots of mistakes before that. So, and it's just a lot of theory to know. So, well, that's the Ruy Lopez, or the Spanish game. Let's look at some games I've played. Oh, get out of here. And I'm gonna do these games from the black perspective. Just because I notice a lot of videos I watch, it's always from the white perspective, and then when I'm playing black, it feels a little bit more uncomfortable because I'm used to seeing it from the other side. So today I'm playing black, and my opponent is obviously playing white, and we're gonna get into the Ruy Lopez today. So And this was just very natural. I didn't try to do this. It's just a popular opening that you're going to see a lot. So, of course, e4, e5. Let me turn off real quick this stuff. This tells us too much information. All right. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c3, or c6, my goodness. Okay, so attacking, defending, this should feel very familiar if our bishop was to go to c4. That's the Italian game, but this isn't the Italian game. It's the Ruy Lopez, so b5 starts it off. I play the Morphy defense, attacking, and this is the most popular move, a6, and he plays the exchange variation, so taking. Now, I should take with this pawn, but I don't because I forget. And for some reason, I always think captured towards the center, so I did that. I captured towards the center, but this move is probably a little bit stronger. Why is that? Probably because you get your bishop's diagonal open. You get this nice file for your queen. So it's just a little bit better. And yeah, but I wasn't thinking about that. So I just captured, because again, this is a 10-minute game. So I'm fighting against the clock. So I'm just trying to get through my opening moves a little bit quickly, so I have time to think about those tough moves that you need to spend a little bit more of your time allowance on. So my opponent captures the pawn. And I was just talking about I should have moved my queen right here to e7, attacking that piece, and then eventually I would have evened out as far as material goes. But I wasn't really thinking, because I'm a human and I make mistakes. Yosh, what are you doing? Get out of there. He's playing in the trash. Oh, raccoon over there. All right. So I guess my thought here was I'm going to attack this pawn on e4. And he just says, okay, that's fine. I'll defend. I have this hanging pawn. No, he's not hanging. He's defended. I think that's in another game. I have a hanging pawn. All right. Anywho, I get another attacker, or not another attacker. I get a attacker on my bishop here to attack. I tried to do a move that had two purposes. So one purpose is that I develop my bishop, my dark square bishop. I prepared a castle. And on top of that, I am putting pressure on this piece. So kind of a threefold move there, which if you could do more than one thing, do it. Okay. So they're doing more than one thing too. They're developing their bishop and at the same time defending. Okay. I castle to get my king safe. He castles to get his king safe. Now I'm getting my queen into the game so I could have more attackers on this piece. They only have one defense. So if I take and they take, I'll take back and I'll be up a piece, minor piece. So he gives his piece another defender. Okay. I push my pawn because if he takes, I take, he takes, I take. Now that's pretty good for me because I only lost one little pawn there. But let's see what my opponent does. He backs up his pawn. So if I take, then he takes. You get how that works. So he's just defending that piece. So I take it. And he takes with his queen, which is probably not the best move, and you'll see why in just a second. So I push my pawn forward, attacking his queen. Of course, he's going to not want to lose his queen, so he moves it. And when he moved it, he undefended this piece, so that knight is not defended again. So now I have more attackers, and I could gobble up and win some material here, and I do. And now I'm looking pretty good. He develops his minors. I get my bishop into the game. He wasn't doing much here. Give me a nice diagonal. This is looking like the square e4. You want up, buddy? You want to watch Daddy play? There we go. So e4 is where all the action is pointing to right now. I got 1, 2, 3 attackers, and he has 2 defenders. So this is kind of a good spotlight too. You always want to have more firepower than your opponent does. So if this goes down, I'm going to be up because I have more people looking out. So hey, don't mess with the light, buddy. Crazy kids. All right, so they push their pawn. Doesn't really do much. I'm just going to gobble up that pawn. I'm putting some pressure right here, so I could gobble up that if I want to. But he gobbles, But remember, I have this piece right here defending, so I recapture. He takes my pawn, whatever. And then I get my rook a little more into the action. He's probably, does he take here? That's a free piece, or a free point it looks like. But he doesn't. He puts some pressure here. So now this guy is pretty much stuck. I'm not going to move him because then my queen will be exposed. So that was a nice little pin that my opponent did on me. So I pushed my pawn, looking to put some pressure on the queen here. He could take en passant in passing, which is something we haven't talked about in class yet. But when a pawn does this move right here, your first step move, this is one of the special moves, like castling, that gets kids into a lot of fights because you can't do that. That's not what captures. But you can capture like that, which is kind of trippy. And this is just to kind of prevent people from pushing pawns and trying to promote in the end game. So it's just a little rule to make things a little more even. So yeah, when they take 2 steps and you're lined up like this, you can capture it that way. It's called en passant. It's a French word for in passing. So my opponent could have taken there, but instead they took, hey, you want to sit? Yeah, okay. They took that hanging pawn and create this threat right here. So I said, that's fine. I'll eat your cookies too. So now it's a cookie trade. Because when his queen took, he undefended this piece. So it wasn't really a free cookie. It was just an exchange of cookies. And then I don't know what that move is trying to accomplish, but they moved their pawn. I gobbled up another free cookie. They pushed their pawn again. I think they're kind of running out of ideas. I move my queen here, basically just threatening mate right there to see what they'll do. The queen moves here. I think he's just trying to push his pawn to get it promoted, but my opponent missed this checkmate right here, and I took advantage of that, and that was game over for my opponent. All right, so that was one game I played. Let's look at another one. I'm playing black again because, again, I wanted just to show it from a different perspective. So e4, e5. Let me take this off again. I don't like all the symbols when I'm playing. Okay, e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6. Very familiar. And then the magic move, bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez or Spanish game. This game I don't play the Morphy defense. I go for the Berlin. And I'm officially out of book. Okay, so I don't know really what to do after this, but I just thought let me try something different today and see how that works. So they just took my my knight and I recaptured. Again, I don't know if this is the best way to recapture. I probably should have recaptured with my d pawn, but at this time I had no idea. So you can't blame me, can you? I got a hanging pawn here, but they defend it. So good job for white. I develop my bishop, trying to get ready to castle. They castle, I castle. We got king safety now going on. And now they take this piece, which is hanging right now. So nobody's defending that piece. They say, I'll gobble it up. So I push my pawn forward, trying to, kick this knight back. But in doing so, I undefended my c pawn here. One of my c pawns. I got double pawns. My pawn on c6. So now this piece can just come over here and gobble it up, putting pressure on the queen as well. So that'd be a pretty cool move. But instead, he just retreats. So sometimes we miss opportunities, and that's just part of chess, right? So I push my pawn forward, trying to take more control of the center. I got these doubled pawns here. So if he takes, I would love to retake and get rid of my messed up pawn structure here. But he doesn't do that. He just moves his knight here. So I take. I guess I was feeling greedy that day. He takes with his knight. I recapture. He recaptures. We exchange queens, and this is where we're at. All right. I want to get my bishop a little more active. Just like, I like this. Just staring down here. That looks pretty scary, right? I thought so. He gets his rook into the game. Maybe he should develop his last minor piece and connect his rooks before he started getting all crazy. And this will be a great lesson in why you don't do that. So right now he wants to attack this this pawn right here. No one's defending it. So I offer this kind of trade here, trade. I thought that would be a good trade for us. But he gets greedy, and he's going to capture this pawn because this pawn is still undefended. But that was the silliest move because his back rank is undefended. Now, if this bishop wasn't here, then he'd be fine because this rook would be watching that whole back row, protecting it. So that's why you want to connect your rooks a lot of times because it helps defend your king. So I do this move and go on to the first rank and put him in check. He has one legal move, which is knight to e1, temporarily defending against checkmate, but there's no one defending that knight. So I just gobble it up, and that's checkmate. Game over. Mr. Hartsfield wins. So that's Ruy Lopez. I hope you like that. It's a very popular opening. You could explore some more variations of that. I didn't do a very good job with the Berlin defense at all, but maybe that's something I will explore a little bit more. And you'll find that you'll put some time in, you'll memorize the first 5 or 6 moves of an opening or more, and then your opponent will do something totally different that you haven't seen before, and you'll just have to figure it out from there. So you can memorize all you like, but if you're playing opponents who are just going to do their own variations, you got to make adjustments. So always play kind of good fundamental chess, and hopefully you'll be making good moves regardless of if you feel comfortable or know or have the opening memorized. So keep that in mind. Stick to your opening principles. Try not to blunder or hang those pieces, and you should be doing okay. All right, kids, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.